Welcome to English 101 College Composition. The topic for today's lesson is Writing Essentials with Professor Melissa Siska. The learning outcomes for our first section will be that you will know how to identify a strong thesis statement, and you will be able to identify topic sentences in paragraphs. Thesis statements and topic sentences. Writing essentials. Well, you will approach an argumentative essay differently than, say, a narrative essay about a specific topic. There are certain features that all of these styles or methods have in common. A clear thesis statement, clear and logical transitions, focused body paragraphs with evidence and support, appropriate format and style if you use source material, a conclusion that expands upon your thesis and summarizes evidence, and clear writing that follows standard conventions for things like grammar, punctuation, and spelling. Thesis statements. Powerful thesis statements are an effective and important element of almost every writing assignment in college. When trying to isolate the thesis in a piece of text, consider these questions. What is the primary subject of this text? Is the author trying to inform me or persuade me? What does the author think I need to know about this subject? And why does the author think I need to know about this subject? Thesis statement. The thesis statement is one sentence, occasionally two, that encapsulates the results of your thinking, as it offers your main insight or argument in condensed form. We often use the word argument in English courses, but we do not mean it in the traditional sense of a verbal fight with someone else. Instead, you argue by taking a position on an issue and supporting it with evidence. A basic thesis sentence has two main parts: the topic, which is what you're writing about, and the angle, or what your main idea is about that topic. Let's watch a quick and fun video that illustrates how to create a thesis statement. Please pay close attention because there is no words, no audio in this video. Okay, so while Batman is really more of a favorite for me over Superman, this example very clearly illustrated how to create a thesis statement for something simple and everyday. Don't replay. There we go. Okay, now you are going to pause this video in just a second. Here's a practice question for you. What is the topic and angle of the following thesis statement? The economics of television have made the viewing experience challenging for many viewers because shows are not offered regularly. Similar programming occurs at the same time and commercials are rampant. At this time, I want you to pause the video, open up an email or a Word document, and type in your answer. There are going to be 3 spots in this video where you pause and type in a response. At the end of the video, you will email your responses to me, being sure to include your course number and section, as well as the subject Module 3 lecture response. Pause the video now and answer the following question. Welcome back. We're moving on to identifying thesis statements. Thesis statements vary based on the rhetorical strategy of the essay, but thesis statements typically share the following characteristics. They present the main idea. They're most often one sentence, occasionally 2. They tell the reader what to expect. It is a summary of the essay topic. It's usually worded to have an argumentative edge. This helps draw the reader in and create some interest. And they are always written in the 3rd person. Serious thesis problems to avoid. Although you have creative control over your thesis sentence, you still should try to avoid the following problems, not for stylistic reasons, but because they indicate a problem in the thinking that underlies the thesis sentence. One major problem that happens a lot is that your thesis sentence is too broad. When the angle in a thesis sentence is too broad, the writer may not have carefully thought through the specific support for the rest of the writing. A thesis angle that's too broad makes it easy to fall into the trap of offering information that deviates from that angle, or carrying yourself off on a tangent that has nothing to do with your original purpose. Another major thesis problem to avoid that is also very common is the exact opposite, making your thesis sentence too narrow. A narrow statistic or a narrow statement of fact can often be used to draw in a reader but doesn't offer the writer's own ideas or analysis about a topic. So be sure you offer enough information to be able to carry out explaining your sentence in your paper. Topic sentences. These are key sentences in academic writing, and they do two things. They establish the main point that the rest of the paragraph supports, and they situate each paragraph within the sequence of the argument, a task that requires transitioning from the prior paragraph. Topic sentences have a topic and an angle, just like a thesis sentence. But the angle of topic sentences usually is smaller in range than that of the thesis sentence. You can usually find the main point of each of your main topic sentences within your thesis. Effective paragraphs. Learning outcomes for the effective paragraph section. You will learn to analyze the types and uses of evidence and supporting details in paragraphs. You will describe techniques for effective paragraph transitions. You will identify successful strategies for writing introductions, and you will identify successful strategies for writing conclusions. Effective paragraphs. Paragraphs are important for ease of reading. They help to offer ideas in chunks that the eye and brain can more easily comprehend, as opposed to offering information in one large block of text, which is hard to read and can be intimidating to readers. In academic writing, paragraphs show changes in ideas or further development of ideas. Typically, paragraphs present mini ideas that develop out of the thesis sentence's main idea. They are the fundamental units of academic writing. Without good paragraphs, you simply cannot clearly convey your ideas and claims in any content or subject area. Main ideas and paragraphs. A paragraph is composed of multiple sentences found on a single, clearly defined topic. Paragraphs are actually organized much like persuasive papers are. After the topic or key sentence introduces the main idea, the remainder of the sentences in a paragraph should support or explain this topic. At the end of the paragraph, the author may include some sort of conclusion or a transition that sets up the next idea he or she will be discussing. Supporting ideas and details. Many authors use the pie format to structure their essays. I just like that it reminds me of fall and Thanksgiving and apple pies and pumpkin pies. But pie equals point, illustration, and explanation, hence PIE. The point furthers a thesis or a claim. The illustration provides support for the point, and the explanation tells the audience why the evidence provided furthers the point and/or the thesis. Using evidence. Any text should provide illustrations for each of its points, but it is especially important to provide reliable evidence in an academic argument. This evidence can be based on primary source material or data, primary being the author's own experiences, interviews they've conducted, surveys they've conducted, polls or experiments they've conducted, and that they have administered themselves. They may or may not have created the plan for these interviews, surveys, polls, and experiments, but they administered and conducted them and gathered the results themselves. Evidence can also stem from secondary source material or data. Secondary sources include items such as books, journals, newspapers, magazines, websites or surveys, experiments, statistics, polls, and other data that's collected by others, as opposed to primary that was collected by yourself. Okay, so secondary sources are others telling us the results or information they found on their own. Using evidence. How do authors decide what kind of evidence to use? There are different types of rhetorical techniques that writers use when making claims in their writing. These appeals are referred to by their Greek names: logos, the appeal to logic; pathos, the appeal to emotion; and ethos, the appeal to authority. Logical appeals are logos. Authors using logic to support their claims will include a combination of different types of evidence. These typically include established facts, case studies, statistics, experiments, analogies and logical reasoning, and citations of recognized experts on the given issue. Authoritative appeals are ethos. Authors using authority to support their claims may draw from different sources as evidence for their claims, including personal anecdotes based on substantial personal experience. This gives an illustration of deep knowledge on the issue, a citation of recognized experts on the issue, or testimony of those involved firsthand with the issue. Emotional appeals, or pathos. Authors using emotion might support their claim with some of the same kinds of evidence, but employed to achieve different ends. Touching personal anecdotes, compelling narratives, or emotional or stirring testimonies of those involved firsthand with an issue. This is one of my favorite parts. We get to watch examples of ethos, pathos, and logos in everyday life. In this case, commercials. This is some of my favorite stuff, so take a second and pay attention here.
Honey, you feel so soft and sweet.
Charmin Ultra Soft.
It's softer than ever. Charmin Ultra Soft is twice as absorbent, so you can use less. And it's softer than ever, so it's harder to resist.
You'll always be my lover till the end of time.
Okay, this is getting a little weird. We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
In Austin, it's 60 degrees with a Alexa?
Amazon's Alexa lost her voice this morning, causing
Alexa lost her voice. How is that even possible?
We have the replacements ready. Just say the word.
You're sure this is going to work?
Yeah.
Alexa, show me a recipe for a grilled cheese sandwich.
Pathetic. You're 32 years of age and you don't know how to make a grilled cheese sandwich. Its name is the recipe, you...
Alexa, how far is Mars?
How far is Mars? Well, how am I supposed to know? I've never been there. This guy want to go to Mars. For what? There's not even oxygen there.
Alexa, set the mood.
Now, setting the mood. You're in the bush. And you're just so dirty. And you're so sweaty. Because it's hot in that bush.
Alexa, reboot.
Alexa, play some country music.
I don't dance now. I make money move.
No, Alexa, country music.
I be in and out them dance so much I know they tired of me. Alexa, call Brandon.
I'm afraid Brandon is a little tied up. But do let me know if there's anything I can help you with. Jessica?
Nobody
Boy.
Thanks, guys, but I'll take it from here.
The Davis twins are alike in nearly every way, right down to brushing their teeth. So how did only one get gingivitis? Well, 1 in 2 people do. So I told Karen about new Crest Pro Health Clinical Gum Protection Toothpaste. It helps eliminate plaque in the gum line, helping prevent gingivitis. It's even clinically proven to help reverse it in just 4 weeks. And it protects these other areas dentists check most. Looks like the twins are even again. New Crest Pro Health Clinical Toothpaste. Life opens up when you do.
Okay, take a moment now to pause the video, go back to that email or Word document that you opened earlier. And now for number 2, you're going to add an example of each ethos, pathos, and logos. You may not use the examples illustrated in this video, but you may use commercials as your examples, or you may make up your own. Pause the video and add these as number 2 in your Writing Essentials lecture response. Welcome back. We're moving on to paragraphs and paragraph transitions. In writing traditional 5-paragraph essays, you may have been taught very basic transition sentences, such as, "My first point is," or "in conclusion," and other phrases of the like. In college, your professors will expect less formulaic writing. Strong transition words or phrases that indicate linkages and ideas are the key to taking your writing to the next level and moving from the formulaic to the organic. When writing your argument, you need to lead your readers from one idea to the next, showing how those ideas are logically linked. Transition words and phrases help you keep your paragraphs and groups of paragraphs logically connected for a reader. Transition words and phrases. There's a lot of them, so we're going to watch a quick video here to lay them out and explain some of the most frequently used.
In this video, you're going to learn how to use transitional words and phrases in your writing. In some of our communities, driving is already chaotic. But imagine what driving would be like if there were no signs or signals to provide direction to help drivers navigate the roads and highways. To prevent your writing from appearing chaotic to your readers, you have the option of using words and phrases to create directional signs and signals of your own. We call these words or phrases transitions. Transitions help show relationships between ideas, create logical flow, and create a sense of connectedness called coherence. Transitions can be used both within and between paragraphs to create a sense of flow. Many websites give long lists of transitions. Search transitions in your browser for examples. Throughout this video, you will find transitional words and phrases you will feel comfortable using in your own writing. To add ideas, use words such as and, in addition, or furthermore. For example, it is hard to find good movies to watch in the cinema these days. Furthermore, the price of a ticket is so expensive. For emphasis, use words such as above all, especially, or indeed. For example, indeed, the price for 2 tickets and popcorn can sometimes be more expensive than dinner in a restaurant. For comparison, use words such as similarly, in the same way, or likewise. For example, similarly, the cost to rent DVDs has increased over the years. For cause and effect, use words such as because, for this reason, as a result. For example, for this reason, I don't watch movies very much anymore. For showing a sequence, use words such as after, before, or finally. For example, before this happened, I used to see movies in the cinema regularly. For contrast, use words such as but, however, and in contrast. For example, in contrast, the price of print books has risen at a slower rate. And lastly, to summarize your ideas, use words such as consequently, finally, or in conclusion. For example, Consequently, the industry is no longer sustainable because people like me no longer pay. Let's do a quick review. Here are all of our example sentences. When these sentences are combined to create a paragraph, the transition words signal the relationship between ideas to create a coherent paragraph. For example, it is hard to find good movies to watch in the cinema these days. Furthermore, the price of a ticket is so expensive. Indeed, the price for 2 tickets and popcorn can sometimes be more expensive than dinner in a restaurant. Similarly, the cost to rent DVDs has increased over the years. In contrast, the price of print books has risen at a slower rate. For this reason, I don't watch movies very much anymore. Before this happened, I used to see movies in the cinema regularly. Consequently, the industry is no longer sustainable because people like me no longer pay. I prefer to read. And just like that, you are a pro at using transitional words and phrases in your writing. Thanks for watching.
Now, after reviewing transitional phrases and many common ones, you're going to pause the video in just a moment and do the following activity. You will mark your answers as number 3 in your lecture response. This activity is paragraph transitions. You're going to review a web page of your choice, any web page on any topic, and try to identify as many transitions as you can. Make sure you include the web address for me for the web page that you chose in your response. And you're going to look for transitional words and phrases, identifying one example of the following transitions: additive, adversative, summative, or sequential. List out as many of the transition words as you see. You don't need to write the same one 100 times if they use the same one repeatedly. Aim for 10 to 20. When you are done, please resume the video. Introductions. There's no strict formula for composing an introduction, but effective introductions often do the following. They provide background about a topic. They locate readers in a specific time and or place. They start with a compelling quotation or statistic, something concrete to grab your interest and show that you have the authority to write on this topic. They include an ethical appeal, which you explicitly or implicitly show that you've researched your topic and are credible. They articulate a main claim or thesis, but normally after some buildup, which means we typically find our thesis statement in the last sentence or 2 of our introductory paragraph. And introductions lay out the stakes for the piece of writing, that is, why the reader should bother reading on. Conclusions. Below is a list that captures these ideas and other potential goals of a conclusion. Conclusions might summarize the argument in fresh language, especially in longer pieces of writing. They might bookend a story or idea that started in the introduction. They might include an emotional appeal with which you explicitly or implicitly connect the logic from the argument to a more passionate reason intended to sway the reader. Remember those ethos, pathos, and logos we discussed before? The conclusions may issue a call to action, or your conclusion may make some sort of prediction or assessment about the future of your topic or future research that needs to be done on your topic. Audience awareness. In the audience awareness section, our learning outcomes are describe strategies for analyzing the audience, explore strategies for connecting with an audience through effective style, language, and rhetorical appeal. Audience awareness. Who is the audience you're writing for? Often in school, students think of the teacher as their audience, and students who are good at pleasing the teacher sometimes do well at their writing because they can read this audience of one. In college and in the real world writing you do beyond college, reading your audience is critical to effective writing. Authors who know their intended audience and who keep in mind possible unintended audiences, that's people who may pick up and read your paper that you didn't think would, compose essays and arguments that are more effective at provoking a response, whether that response is simply creating agreement with the author's position or spurring the reader to take action. Tone, language, and appeal. You can approach your audience's needs and build common ground using 3 basic rhetorical approaches: tone, language, and appeal. Tone reveals the attitude of the writer, which can range from friendly to angry to cold to intimate. When writing a research paper and other academic writing, what is called academic discourse, you want to use what is called the academic voice, which is meant to sound objective, authoritative, and reasonable. Language use depends on discourse communities. The discourse community of a scientific journal versus the discourse community of text messages among friends are very different. And so you will use very different tone and language for these different discourse communities. Logos is about appealing to your audience's logical side. Pathos is about appealing to their emotions. And ethos is about using credibility or character to underscore the appeal to your audience. Writing strong sentences. Our learning outcomes for the writing strong sentences section are that you will be able to explain techniques for writing effective sentences and identify and use the active voice. Sentence construction. Be sure when you are writing sentences that you write concise sentences with only the words necessary to convey the meaning that you are sharing. That goes hand in hand with writing clear sentences. If your sentence is confusing, you're going to lose your reader. If you're confused writing it as the author, I guarantee you it is not going to be clear to your reader. In the same vein, avoid vague and unnecessary words. Don't just add in words to up your word count or to sound more intelligent if they don't make sense and add to your sentence. Vary the length of your sentences. If all your sentences are 3 or 4 words, or all your sentences are 20 words, you're going to exhaust and bore your reader at either end of the spectrum. So be sure to vary. Be sure you name the people so that it doesn't get confusing to the reader. Use active verbs. Use parallel structure effectively. And use parallelism and repetition to drive points home and to clarify points. Using the active voice. In the simplest term, an active voice sentence is written in the form of A does B. For example, Carmen sings the song. A passive voice sentence is written in the form of B is done by A. For example, the song is sung by Carmen. Both constructions are grammatically correct, but active voice is a more powerful kind of sentence construction for most kinds of writing. We want to use active verbs whenever possible, as they allow us to express ourselves clearly, succinctly, and strongly. Active verbs imply that we're confident with what we're saying. We believe in our words. For your final practice and number 4, the final piece of your lecture response, you're going to pause the video and practice using the active voice. You don't need to hunt for anything this time. You're simply going to create 3 sentences not used in this presentation that use the active voice. Be sure they are grammatically correct. Pause the video. And welcome back. Now that you've done all 4 pieces of the lecture response, please look at this quick review, and then take your lecture response and email it to me along with your name, your course number, obviously English 100, and your section to earn credit for the lecture response. Here is our quick review of everything we covered in this lecture. In college, you will be expected to compose nuanced, original theses that are discovered and refined throughout the writing process. You will be expected to use key or topic sentences to establish a paragraph's main point and situate the paragraph within the overall sequence of the argument. You will be expected to use evidence to develop ideas and shape effective paragraphs. You will be expected to use introductions to orient readers to the topic. You will be expected to use transitions to guide readers from paragraph to paragraph and idea to idea clearly without getting lost or confused. You will be expected to use conclusions to provide fresh perspectives or calls to action. Please note that you should not be composing your conclusions with the starting phrase "in conclusion." Let's leave that phrase in high school, please. You will also be expected to consider audience and rhetoric context to influence choices of tone, language, and rhetorical appeal. So your pieces will be appropriate to the audience and topic of your essay in different content areas. And you will be expected to use effective sentences to communicate clearly and concisely. Thank you so much. This concludes English 101, Module 3, Writing Essentials lecture lesson. If you haven't yet, please be sure to email your lecture response with your 4 items to me to get credit. It is due by the end of the week. If you are confused about anything that was reviewed in this video, please go back and watch that section again. Thank you guys and have a great day.